Okay, so on behalf of JALT, it is my great pleasure to introduce presenters. The topic is expanding accessibility in learning communities. We have 4 presenters. The order they will be presenting is Ryota Moriya from Otaru University of Commerce. He'll be presenting first. Second will be Natsuki Suzuki and from Aoyama Gakuin University. The third presenter is Ryokoi Sato from Reitaku University. And the fourth presenter is Aoyama Gakuin University. And feel free to start.
Let me share my screen first.
Yeah.
Can everybody see my slide?
Yes.
Yes.
Good. Okay, thank you for coming to our forum. In this presentation, each presenter will share context and issues that they've experienced in their classrooms. We'd like you to think about what strategies would work for teachers, students, and institutions with us. If you have any questions, please type your question in the chat box. At the end of each presentation, presenter will answer them. We will also leave some time for discussions at the end of this forum, so you can ask questions there too. Let me introduce presenters first. First, I'm Ryota Moriya. I'm gonna talk about how teachers construct notion of disability through teaching a student with undiagnosed developmental disability. Second speaker is Natsuki Suzuki from Aoyama Gakuin University. She will talk about how to negotiate and enable access for elementary school students. Third speaker is Ryokoi Sato from Reitaku University. She will talk about how language teachers can apply universal design in online teaching. Our last speaker is Reimann from Aoyama Gakuin University. He will talk about how to bridge social differences and enable
social distances.
Social distancing and enable access for students with special needs in online teaching. First, I will briefly go over the background information of this presentation. This graph shows a clear increase of number of students with impairments in higher education. Since 2018, the percentage of students with impairments has exceeded 1% of the students in higher education. Here's another data. This graph shows the number of students with impairments divided in accordance with difference of impairment in 2018. For example, the number of developmental disabilities has increased by 2.7% in the last 2 years. Students with disabilities in higher education are increasing today. Learner needs are diversifying and changing rapidly. This means teachers are facing growing number of learner needs every day. However, according to Tonoka, only 28% of language courses offer support for students with disabilities. There may be lack of resources for language teachers in Japanese higher education. For example, only 90% of university has full-time disability resource staff in Japan. As a result, language teachers are placed more pressure on their shoulders to provide individual support for their students. In 2016, Act for Eliminating Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities was into effect. Not only schools, but also teachers are by laws responsible to provide students with reasonable accommodation. So therefore, the question we teachers are facing today is, what should we do? The objective of this forum is raising awareness of learners with special needs and scaffolding coping strategies to accommodate diverse learner needs and creating network of support. Each presenter will talk about different learning needs. However, learner needs are diverse and sometimes even unobservable. Therefore, we would like you to share your thoughts as well as experience with learners with special needs that will make this forum resourceful for all of us. As one example of creating a network of support, we are collecting individual teacher experiences for creating a database accessible for teachers. Someday soon, we like to make a new SIG, special interest group, in JALT, focusing on accessibility in language learning. We set a goal for improving accessibility to learning resources. Our strategy is creating a database to which SIG members can access. Our method is collecting and sharing individual case studies. As a start, we made a Facebook page, Accessibility in Language Learning, where you can ask members for advice or even help other teachers by sharing your classroom practices. If you are interested in sharing your experiences with other teachers, please find our Facebook page link here. Or if you are interested in supporting us for creating a new SIG, please join our Facebook group and contact me. We will send you a sign-up sheet. Foucault says biopower is power over life, which is exercised by a pair of technologies, anatomy politics of body and biopolitics of population. Anatomy politics of body exercises disciplinary power by controlling individual bodies, whereas biopolitics of population exercises coordinate power by controlling the species of body. Anatomy politics of body consists of the three technologies, including tableau, exercise, and maneuver. Tableau technology makes individual bodies observable. For example, Tableau technology was practiced by taking over the previous teacher's assessment in my class. Exercise technology examines individuals and assesses their achievements. For example, our strict attendance policy must have practiced this technology over the student. Maneuver technology is to control individual body movement. For example, the other teachers try to awaken him in class and to deter him from chatting in class. Biopolitics of population technology was practiced by the record of student profile, in other words, taking over previous teacher's assessment. Most universities have Center for Special Needs Support where they keep the record of student special needs, which were assessed by the previous teachers. As my findings, biopower was exercised in this class. The Canadian-Japanese student was labeled as an undiagnosed developmental disability by teachers. In this sense, notion of students with learning needs as disability was constructed in this class. This finding reminds me of Burr's remark about Foucault's notion of power, that knowledge and power are intertwined. For us, teachers' information about students' learning needs are often useful to accommodate them. However, having knowledge about their needs may create another notion of students with learning needs as disability in class. Now, I'd like to ask you all what coping strategy would work here for teachers, institutions, and of course, students as well. So I'd like to know your thoughts on this if you have any idea about it. So let me just stop sharing the screen. Okay, so we have 15 minutes for each presenter. And at the end, we have 4 presenters. So at the end, we are hoping to have 30 minutes for further discussions. But if you have any quick or simple questions about my presentation, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay.
Should we move on to the next presenter?
Yeah. Sure. We might as well, as there's no questions yet. So why don't we just keep going then? It's probably the best way. Then we can maybe make discussion groups later.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So can you start?
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. So Zoom. Could you see my screen?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so my name is Natsuki Suzuki, and I'm a master student at Aoyamagaku University. And I'm also an English teacher at the public elementary school in Tokyo. And it has been my second year of my teaching career. And sometimes having fresh eyes really help us to see something invisible. And I've learned that really trying to understand disruptive behavior in the classroom could open our eyes to make better classes. And so let me talk about what had been my challenges and how did I try to manage them. So here are the actual classrooms that I have taught in 2019 and 2020. The classes had been taught cooperatively with a home teacher. For third graders, there are 3 different classes with around 30 to 38 children each. All of the classes had several children who behaved differently from the other in a variety of ways and requiring specialized attentions. So firstly, let me give you a quick overview of the challenges in 2019. Here are the issues and solutions. And the first one, for the boy who was extremely shy, I tried to reach him by including some activities which could be done quietly, such as connecting dot to dot, letters of the alphabet. The pictures for the activity was also carefully selected. One of the children in the class told me the boy really loved the airplane, so I included the worksheet of the airplane. And the second one, for the boy who had been diagnosed with ADHD, for him, almost all sounds and speech would annoy him, so including small quiz which had more visual materials worked quite well. Also, the use of magic trick did capture his interest, so that was one of rare activities that he could really participate in. And the third one, for the boy who was too moody, I tried to give him a chance to answer to the questions in right timing so that he could keep his motivation. And also, I casually talked to him and really listened to his honest opinion casually and tried to really read the lines behind it. And lastly, for the returnees who are too advanced, this is a challenge that I face every year, but adding one more jump for their interest to show them implicitly that there were still lots of things they could learn more. For example, when they learned the shapes, circle, rectangle, etc., I added the word polygon that they didn't know yet with showing the one Pokemon character named Polygon. So, okay, so how about in 2020? What were the challenges? Right now, I'm dealing with these 3 children, Arisa, Masafumi, and Kanato. So let's start from the case of Arisa. So she's considerably slow learner and is not good at taking a hint and tended to be self-centered and a little out of space, being not good at seeing herself objectively. Making friends is also one of challenges for her. As for solutions, I tried 2 things. One is when I walk around the class and see how they're doing, I sometimes bend down and give her some help. The other is during a recess with other classmates, I naturally include her and enjoy some activities together, just having fun, wishing that incidental learning can be given to them and she could be in a group and hopefully she could make a friend. So next lovable child is Masafumi. And what is his problem? He has the mental delay, physically and cognitively. When you line up from shortest to tallest, he's the first one, and he's a type of child who tends to easily give up. And trying new activity for the first time is also a challenge for him because understanding rules and how the flow of the activity takes more time than others. Also, he's not good at understanding only from orally, so not just instruction from oral instruction, but actually written worksheet is needed. Okay. And he is actually really loved by other classmates. Okay. And as an additional information of him, when I collected reaction paper at the end of first semester, at the first glance, it is written, I enjoyed learning Goldilocks and the Three Bears the best. But when you look at the crumpled paper closely, you can find that he actually wrote something first and erased it and then wrote that comment. What was actually written was, I never enjoyed the class even once. So as a solution, it is a bit different from Arisa's case, who seems to be comfortable to have teachers around helping. Masafumi's case, he has pride. So I actually tried once approaching him, giving him help, and he did gestures like telling me to go away. So after that happened, I changed and I have watched him from a distance, just as the same way for watching other children in a classroom. Replacing one-on-one support during a class, I have tried to write comments on worksheet with my heart, wishing him to growing up and being more persistent to learning. At first, there was no written instruction saying, please listen and connect the dots. That could be one reason, but it seemed he at least he tried, but the worksheet that was submitted was just a blank paper. Gradually, he got used to the activity, and finally, he could do it properly. And also, actually, he was really good at recognizing the letter, even in not alphabetical order. So I really impressed. Okay, so the last one is Kanato. And his problem, so he is mature and impassive and indifferent and doesn't talk much to teachers. Because he is a boy and it's hard for me to imagine his feeling at that age, and I don't really have any clear solution for him yet. But one thing that I tried is almost all of the activities that reach other children's, like singing a song or TPL activities such as Simon Says, or some quiz or bingo game. Other children do love them. However, for him, it seems that he really think that is that kind of learning style is a little bit childish. So I put value on doing some textbook learning and actual learning. And also other solutions would be cooperate and consult with home teachers more, so that I could, as a specialized English specialized teacher, Japanese teacher of English, I'm just an observing teacher. So by cooperating and consulting with home teachers, I could really understand each child more. So that's one thing. So this is the end of my part. So air hugs from me. Thank you very much. Okay, so this is.
Okay. Wow. That was great. Okay. So I wonder if there's any okay, there's still no questions in the chat, so we might as well just move ahead, right?
Oh, we got one.
Oh, we did. Oh, okay. I wonder if Kanato is the only child or if he's the eldest child in the family, from Michael Yap. So Natsuki, I don't know if you know anything about Kanato's family history, personal life.
I'm not really sure if he's only child or not.
Yeah. So that's a good question, because we never know what our students' personal situations are and how that might impact their behavior in the classroom. That could be something that we can discuss at the end, maybe in more detail, if other members have any kind of coping strategies for that. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Okay, well, why don't we move ahead to Ryoko then?
All right. Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ryoko Sato, a lecturer of Ryokoi University. In my part, I will talk about universal design in online teaching. Just a moment, please. My slide. Okay. As you know, like many universities, remote learning has begun at our university. As you know, it is difficult to understand the students' condition and difficult to see their programs. Also, since it was the first time for many students taking classes, we expected many troubles. Also, we have some students with difficulties, including ones with dyslexia. Therefore, I advise the inclusion of universal design in faculty development session and shared relevant materials. Today, I'm going to share a part of our strategies with you in this forum. My case is mainly from one of the first year required course called Research and Presentation, which is taught by 4 teachers in level-based classes. Many teachers in English majors have used similar methods in other courses as well. First, the context. As I mentioned earlier, the course has taught online. The students are in English liberal arts major and in the Faculty of Foreign Studies. In previous years, we used the TOEIC as a placement test. This year, we were not able to do so, so we assigned students to vocabulary test instead. In addition, since computers were not required at my university, many students took the class on smartphones and tablets at the beginning. Second, the issues. Since we don't see the students in person, we couldn't figure out the presence of students with special needs. Usually, we were able to make predictions based on the orientation program, but it was not possible. And also regarding students taking courses on a smartphone, we can expect that the screen size would be smaller than computers. That would make it difficult to read the slides and materials, depending on the slides design and the text size. In particular, the slides are quite difficult to view on a larger scale, so we need to care about that. Many of the students were new to distance learning and familiar with online task management. So especially first year students did not understand how to manage university assignments. And also we have to care about their eyes. They would be looking at the screens of electric device for long periods. So teachers need to find ways to reduce eye fatigue. It was necessary to make the materials presented, readable, and to burden on the eyes, and the present slides to process information smoothly. So in distance classes, the slides clarity and accessibility are more important than in face-to-face classes. What is universal design? And what we need is the perspective of universal design. As shown in the picture on the right, universal design is a design that eliminates barriers in advance and ensure accessibility for as many people as possible. So what does universal design in English education mean? It means anticipating the areas and activities in which students are likely to stumble in English learning and devising interactional methods and materials to avoid or reduce them. In online classes, there are more factors that can be further barriers. For example, there are differences in the equipments and the ability to use applications. In addition, the impact on the age and the varying cognitive characteristics of students need to be considered. One cognitive characteristic to consider is visual perception. This is parts of examples of how some people see with dyslexia. As you can see, some people have distorted or overlapping view of letters. In some people, the letters appear to move. Actually, one of my students have that vision, and many people are said to have blurred letters. And we need to consider to the color scheme as well. 5% of Japanese men and 0.2% of women are said to be colorblind. However, it is often difficult to ascertain because currently there's no test for colorblindness at school. So you should consider the possibility that there are some students who have this problem. So there are 2 points for universal design. Reduce the burden on the receiver and facilitate information transfer. To achieve this, we should make readable and visible materials. And it is also important to remove the predictable barriers. From here, I will share some example. This is part of handouts which I distributed in the faculty development session for online teaching. I shared some points for universal design about font type, size, a color scheme, layout, and so on. These are from our course. The left side is one from the class slides, and the other two on the right side are from videos to practice some presentation phrases. These slides follow the framework of the universal design 4 slides. This is an example from documents. When we create documents, we also consider fonts and the space between lines. The bottom one has the line spacing set to 1.5 lines. This is the final example today. Regarding the Google Classroom, we have a policy. post materials and assignment only for each lesson to clarify the students' priorities and avoid confusion. So up to here, I introduced some example our strategies from the perspective of universal design. If you have any strategies or do you have any comments, please share with me. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, Ryoko. That went really well. Good.
Thank you very much.
I'm wondering if we have any questions. So it doesn't look like we have any questions left yet. So maybe if everybody's okay, I'll just go with mine.
Yeah, please.
Okay, then we can have a lot of time at the end for discussion and so on. Okay. Okay, let's see. Everybody's able to see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, and you can hear me? Okay. So I'm going to kind of continue on where my co-presenters have kind of left off. And I'm going to connect it to the situation that we are facing ourselves in now with kind of online learning. So my main theme is how we can bridge social distance and enable access to all our students in the situation we are in right now. And I'm going to talk about our context that I'm working in, the issues I'm facing, how I've assessed these, and then the outcomes as well. Okay. So the context that I am teaching in, that I'm going to be talking about, is online synchronous, basically, and university English classes. And I'm going to talk about needs that involve not only students, but also teachers, because it is 50-50. We're all in this together. And so this online learning definitely presents some new challenges for us as teachers and as students, but also new opportunities and new ways to handle differences and difficulties. Right. So the issues that we face, and that many of my presenters have talked about already, are things that are ever present, even when we're not online. So, you know, for example, in any class, we have students with special needs. And basically, 3 to 7% of any population has some social, psychological, or other differences, right, that we may not be able to see or be aware of, right? They're visible or invisible. And a good way to measure that is the proportion of left-handedness. The number of people left-handed in any given group is also the same proportion of people that have other difficulties, like ADHD, dyslexia, and so on, right? So that gives you some idea of how many people in any given population have this. So in an online community, however, these differences or difficulties can be magnified. And I think all of us are familiar with these kind of images. We have one class that's, you know, ready, raring to go. Their screens are on, they're ready to talk. Or the other one, they prefer the black screen and they don't really want to show themselves, and they're kind of reticent. So in this case, you know, support and interaction become critical, right? We really need to socialize and support these students through communication, but this is also much more challenging, right? So we have a whole host of other issues that come up, not just social, psychological, but we have, you know, reticence and resistance to this technology or this type of learning. We have privacy and technology issues. We have other symptoms like fatigue and depression and loneliness and anxiety, different, you know, problems or issues with relationships, and then a general lack of motivation or even direction. So supporting students across these social distances becomes a challenge. And these are some of the types of students and issues that I've had over this last year. The top row are ones that are kind of ever present. Students that are lonely or needy or shy or uncommunicative or so on. The ones on the bottom are ones that are starting to crop up more and more. and are kind of compounding the social issues that we've had before. So how do we manage these, right? So what do our students need? This is kind of assessment that I've been trying to do. And how can we support difficulties and special needs? How can we enable access for everyone? And what can we really do from a distance? And I'm asking the same questions of teachers, because what do we need and what can we do? And how can we support each other? So what we did at the program where I'm working at, the English, the intensive English, or sorry, the integrated English program at Aoyama University, we gave a survey, a comprehensive survey to all of the students. And 280 students responded, which is quite a lot. Mostly first year, as you can see here. First year students made up almost 60%. And sorry, that is quite important, because those are the students we need to focus on. They don't have any experience with university education. They don't have any friends or social networks yet. So the first year students are the most challenging. So I was very pleased that so many responded. So the most basic question we wanted to know is, what do you think about education, and how about your effort and motivation to participate in online learning? And this is higher than I expected. A lot of students where we had a higher number of dropouts and complaints than normal, but 6.35, that's the average score. Students responded that their education was positive. They rated it at 6.35. So that is something that exceeded my expectations. Also, an average of 7 out of 10 students rated that their effort was quite high. So this is also positive, but still we're not getting everybody. So we also wanted to know about their private life and how's their accessibility, and does their situation at home where they're living allow them to participate actively in the class. And luckily, more than 80% of the students could always or usually join, right? But still, that leaves us about 10% of the students that have accessibility issues. And that is a big problem, right? If 10% of the students really don't feel comfortable or find that they can't access the classroom in a regular way, that you can imagine that really impedes learning and other issues. So the challenges, the reasons for these difficulties taking part in real time, as we can assume, it's technology related, Wi-Fi or their devices. It's communication, they can't really connect using this new medium. Personal issues, maybe their parents are in the room with them, and environmental, where they find themselves situated. Okay, so as I said, technological challenges are as such, and maybe we can talk about these later. I'm sure everybody has experienced these, but just, the full range, your microphone doesn't work, audio is distorted, your computer crashes, unable to share your screen or upload materials or download materials. Anything that normally would not be an issue in the classroom because everybody's there and we can troubleshoot it together become critical issues when we're online, right? Communicative challenges, one of the main things was just misinterpreting or not getting the right information. These are some of the direct responses from students. For example, that sometimes professors were giving us the wrong information of websites, or instructions weren't clear, or things were just posted just before the class. So it's very different from getting the information about which classroom you're in or where you're going to sit in the class. That not having the right access to a link makes it impossible to join a classroom. So these are critical. Privacy was another key point. Interference from family members. I'll just read some of the most significant ones. It was, difficult practicing pronunciation when my sister's in the same room, or, something I've never even thought of before. My family used the microwave, so sometimes that would cause the internet connection to sever. That's not something I'd ever even imagined, but these are serious issues, and that can definitely cause issues for the students. Environmental challenges, poor environment for study. You don't have a proper space, so online study is difficult. Noisy construction near the house, I didn't want to go to a cafe or someplace that had internet because of risk of infection, right? So these are all serious challenges. And then finally, I'm just summarizing a lot here. I can give more detail about these at the end, but some of the suggestions from students were things like, the audio was often distorted when they used video as well. And many teachers insist on students turning on their camera, but with limited bandwidth or older devices, this can cause issues. So we should be sensitive to that. Weak connections with screen sharing. So this sometimes cause students devices to crash, for example, or they were often forced out of the room. So we need to be aware of that. Also, some students couldn't join on time because of bad Wi-Fi or whatever reason, but sometimes teachers still counted this as a late or absent or kind of scolded them for that. And that's something we should also be maybe more flexible about. So the basic outcomes and the takeaway from this is that we need to raise awareness of all of these different issues, understand the needs, both students and teachers, and together share strategies and create a network where we can share our stories and kind of connect. And basically, so by supporting each other, finding and eliminating barriers, and developing tools and strategies for enabling access and participation. So whatever the difficulties, whether the social, psychological, technological, no Wi-Fi, or privacy or environmental, your family's on the couch with you during your Zoom class, we need to consider these and reasonably try to accommodate them and support the students, make them feel comfortable, and kind of try to build their self-esteem as much as possible. And this is a unique challenge for every context. So I think what I've tried to do, and this is a very general solution, is create opportunities beyond just teaching or learning for supporting, socializing, and just even releasing stress. These kind of things go a long way. Being able to share and laugh and listen to each other, or confide and complain and collaborate and connect, chat, and chill. Just, being there for them. Letting a Zoom session run overtime, or making one of the students the host and saying, okay, spend, another hour here just talking to your friends if you want, goes really a long way to bridging these social distances. So yeah, these student networks are very critical. So if we can establish a range of comfortable channels of communication, not just the one that your university suggests or the one that you're most comfortable, but something that the students are comfortable with as well, even though it might not be your comfort zone. Also empowering and motivating, giving them confidence and self-esteem any way you can, and focusing on listening to them, understanding their problems, letting them come forward and confide in you is very, very helpful. And that has a huge impact on the following classes if the students feel that they can trust or confide in you. So how can we create opportunities for meaningful connection and communication and mutual support? These are the challenges that we face now. And I think, as I said, every context is different. And I think by sharing our stories, we can really help each other to make progress here. So by developing empathy through sharing our stories, collaborating, communicating, and connecting and sharing our strategies as well, I think is the best way for all of us to move forward, helping not just the online issues we face, but the social, psychological learning difficulties as well. So this will go and create a better environment for everyone. So if we want to, I've got some materials here that I could explain, but I'll save these for a breakout room. But I'd just like to conclude, later, if anybody wants to see some of these ways that we can bridge social distances, I can share them. But I'll just conclude that as teachers, we can influence our students' perceptions and change their attitudes. So using this kind of online learning, or whatever the experience is, create a better environment for everyone and become more sensitive, open, and empathetic towards all the differences that our students face and our teachers, and help our students overcome these barriers, integrate, participate, and become more independent as best we can. And I think by connecting with each other as teachers and sharing our stories, we can go a long way to improving that. So that is my part. And if anybody has any questions or would like to discuss any of these in a breakout room,
Right.
I'm happy to do that. Okay.
Yeah, and
There
Thank
was
here's a question.
Yeah.
quick question from Michael Yap. He was wondering, Andrew, when you conducted your survey, which month of the school year?
Yes, we conducted that at the end of the first semester. So basically, the first 2 weeks of August. Yeah, thank you. I should have put that in. I didn't put any information about the subjects or method. Yeah, it was an online Google survey.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can I just ask people to unmute their mics at this point and give a big round of applause for everyone? All of the presenters. I thought the presentations were very detailed and the slides were excellent.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm honored to have such a great team.
Yes. I'm also wondering if the presenters are willing, maybe you could share a link to your slideshows in the chat.
Okay. Okay.
So
What
shall
is
we take
next
some
for
questions?
ALL? So there's one question. What is next for ALL?
Yes.
So
Okay.
I'll allow the chairperson or the president. What do you call the head of the SIG?
Coordinator.
Coordinator. Dr. Ryota Moriya will field that question.
Thank you for the question, but I'm not sure about it. So if you have any suggestion, we really the purpose of to have this forum is actually we all want to know what you think about for the next step in terms of the accessibility issues and accessibility in language teaching. So if you have any ideas, please share.
Yeah.
I don't have answer for that. So
well, we need more members, more signatures, basically.
That's true, but
yeah. So just everybody join the ALL SIG. Yeah.
So actually, I had a question for Dr.
Okay.
Moriya. I have been teaching in elementary and junior high school, and I thought it was very important what you said about teachers assuming that students are just unmotivated and not asking the right questions to find out which aspects of, as Andrew pointed out, is it environment, is it actual their own personal time management skills, and it would be great to have a better idea of how we can assess those, like what kinds of questions we can use. It's kind of a big question.
Yeah, it's a challenge. I'll give you one example, and I think maybe the question is for Natsuki, but I had a student that was often late or absent, and when she did come, she would like fall asleep after 10 minutes, and I just thought, wow, I can't. How can I pass the student? And I scolded her, and then she came halfway through the semester. She came back with a note from a doctor that said she had narcolepsy, so she couldn't control it. So we had to work together to try to keep her awake in the class and give her special accommodation to participate. So something that looks like a behavioral or attitude problem can be, at first glance, can be a medical issue. So we need to be flexible and aware of those things. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I don't know if Natsuki wants to answer how she handles that in elementary school.
Could you say that question again? Sorry.
What kind of questions can we ask students to find out if it's an environment problem, time management problem, or a cognitive problem, understanding problem? What kind of questions do you use in your classes?
What kind of question do I use?
Elementary school, I think you're probably talking more to the homeroom teacher than to the students themselves, but you had lots of good points about noticing what kind of activities were easier for different types of students to do.
Yeah, so basically, Natsuki, how did you find out about your students' difficulties? Just your own observation, or did you ask them questions?
From casually really interacting with them during a recess. So maybe because I'm, some children call me sometimes by mistake, mom, or お姉ちゃん, older sister. So I've noticed that they doesn't really think I'm a teacher because I'm just observing a class once a week. So I casually really interact with them and some becoming a friend and got to know really well what they like, what they dislike, and what kind of thing they like to do in their free time.
So there's a comment from Michael Yap that he said, that's very interesting to know. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your comment.
I used to teach elementary students at language school. And when I found some students have difficulties during the activities, I try to check whether they can repeat after me almost well or not. And also I always check whether they can recognize the sounds. And I ask them to write the letter or say the sound after listening to some sounds. And I found that four students out of 9 couldn't do that well. And 2 of them have the reading and writing difficulties. And one of them cannot distinguish some sounds. And I told their parents to talk to school teachers or school counselor because he might struggle with learning, which is required to write or read. So, and then the parents found that their son needs some support. So they started to find out what to do for him. That is one of my examples.
Ryoko, there's a question from Michael Yap. How did the parents react when you provided this information about their children?
I didn't use disability or difficulty, but I told them their son always failed to repeat the sounds teachers say. So he might have he might feel uncomfortable with listening to somebody's word or somebody else. So I asked them try to talk about it and find out how he feels. Just like that. I don't want to say straightforward anything.
Yeah, it's a very difficult situation, you know, asking the information and then also communicating it. It's personal and it's, you know, there's a lot of stigmas about different things. So yeah, it's very difficult. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. Yeah.
Fortunately, we have 3-time parents observation opportunity. So they found out what I mentioned.
Yeah. But parents are often in denial about that. Even at the university, when we have reports like that, a lot of parents refuse to believe it or take it seriously. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So
other questions actually.
Yeah.
From Michael Yap again. How close is it to become a 6?
Oh, that's an old question.
Oh, that right.
Yeah. So I don't know if anybody in the audience wants to share any of their experiences or issues, because this is a forum, so everybody is able to kind of have a platform.
Well, I guess Melody shared one experience here. I had a student from who was always sleeping in class, and one day I went up.
Yeah. Yeah, Melody, how did that change the student once you knew about the student's condition? How did it change the rapport with the student?
It changed. I mean, I had a nice rapport with her, and it wasn't always an issue. And suddenly she started sleeping, and so I just went up at the end of a class one day, and I said, "What's happening?" And she said, I was in person. I said, I noticed you're kind of sleepy these days. What's going on? And she said, I'm sorry. She says, she had very bad eczema. And she said, I'm taking this medication. It makes me sleep. And I'm so glad I asked, because I think a lot of teachers have a tendency to just say, the student's lazy, or the student, just goofing off. And I remember another time, this wasn't about any kind of, it was a behavior. I had a student, he would come into my class every Friday morning, put his head down on the desk and go to sleep. And he hadn't always been like that, but it started becoming a pattern. So I sent him an email. It was a writing class, and I said, your writing is really good. I look forward to reading it every week, but I'm having a problem with your sleeping. I said, please try and do something. I said, you can bring caffeinated drink to class if you need it. And it was so cute. The next week he walked up, he came right up to my desk. He's like, Sensei, look. And he showed me his can of Boss coffee, and I didn't have that problem with him again. So, doing it like not in an accusatory way.
Yes.
Being gentle and just saying, hey, I noticed, this is going on, and not embarrassing them. Like with the first student, I waited till the other students were out of the class before I talked to her. The boy, I just sent him an email. So it was just between us. And I thought that was really important. And actually, my daughter suffers from, she has borderline intellectual functioning. When she was in elementary school, we were very open about her problems and issues. When we enrolled her in the school, we went with the caseworker, because we just started fostering. So we went with the caseworker and her, we had reports from her psychologist and stuff. And so we kind of said, she has these issues, and they were really good about it. She used to fall asleep every day, 5th period, she'd pass out, and then she'd wake up 6th period, she'd be fine. So because of her borderline intellectual functioning, to do the same kind of learning as other kids would be so much harder for her, and it would knock her out. And her teacher was great. Her teacher just said, she needs to sleep. Don't wake her up. Just let her, and then she stopped doing that. She stopped sleeping when she got to junior high school. So, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, every student wants to be good and successful, right? Nobody sets out trying to be a bad student. So I think if we can try to understand what they're going through and give them the chance, we can have positive outcomes.
But then, we're open about the situation with her. So some foster parents might not.
Yeah.
say anything to the administration, and they should. They really
Yeah.
should, because the kids have different needs, and
Mm.
yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Melody.
So Michael Yap is saying, unlike tertiary education where teachers have direct interaction with the students and support them, junior high and high school
Ah.
situation requires more coordination with the homeroom teachers and
Yeah,
administration.
that's true.
And I'd just like to add, as an ALT, in that situation, homeroom teachers didn't always tell me. And I felt badly when I wasn't picking up on things. So
Yeah.
I'd like to be included in the loop for that sort of thing. It's a very important point, Melody. I really respect and appreciate your contribution as a parent.
Mm. Yeah. I guess it's a privacy issue, right? Like who is qualified or allowed to know that information. Natsuki, I wonder if the homeroom teachers communicate information to you if they know anything about the students.
It's really different from what kind of teachers.
Mm.
And this year, they are really open for communication. And also the principal that I work, where I work, is really, really treasure the visiting teacher, so that they include us to the weekly meeting, and also other important information they shared with us. So
very important. Sometimes it takes time to make those relationships with the homeroom teachers.
Yeah. Michael Yap commented that that's good to know.
Yeah, but it's I really understand.
Thanks,
I really understand that it's really hard for assistant language teacher who is not Japanese to feel that they are really in the same boat as the other teachers, because sometimes for them it's really hard to speak Japanese, and for most of elementary school home teachers, I've noticed that lots of them really feel that they can't speak English, and they don't really like to speak English and communicating in English. So most of the meeting with a assistant language teacher and the home teachers are just there for a few minutes and not really talking about lesson plan, or it's really hard for them to communicate deeply. So I really understand that for assistant teacher, we need to really work hard toward making a good team.
I think it's also a trust issue as well, that you understand the culture and that you understand the need for privacy and etc. So it just takes time to build that relationship.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, I guess some universities actually they actually don't provide that kind of information to part-time teachers. I don't know. I'm not sure why, but
no, it's also a legal issue as well. If the parents don't want anybody to know, right? Even if we've had issues where somebody's actually diagnosed with something, and the parents don't want anybody to know. So maybe administrators can know about it, but they don't really want the teachers to know. We've had issues like that. So yeah, it definitely makes the job of a teacher difficult if you're not even allowed to know the information.
Well, I just what I was saying was I just noticed that the last I was teaching part-time at the universities in Tokyo, and then I didn't know there's special letters or informations that the university actually send you for each class. Actually, they make sure that the teacher know. But as a part-time teacher, I never had that kind of experience actually. I don't know what happened, but I didn't know anything about it. But this year, like somehow I'm starting to get it maybe because I'm not a part-time teacher now. So maybe that's why, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some differences, the gap of information gap actually between part-time and also tenured.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
As a part-time teacher, I once had an experience like that where the administration sent me a letter asking my permission if it would be okay if a blind student joined my class. And I was very surprised, that they're asking my permission. Of course, I said, yeah, of course he can join my class. And I mean, it was nothing really I had to do. The student came with somebody that would transcribe or help the student understand. And also they put a special microphone on the podium that automatically transcribed whatever I said. Right.
Well,
but that was the only case I've ever had.
Well, actually, this year I was supposed to have a deaf student in my class, but I got a letter from the office. They say, well, they already assigned the student to the other class for the credit. So he or she, I don't know, the student was supposed to take my class, but already given to the other class. Well, because of whatever assessment they made, I guess. No idea what happened, but they must have asked her or him what kind of assessment they needed, and maybe they decided that I might not be able to offer some kind of assessment or something like that. So, well, I don't know who's making that kind of decision, but yeah, a lot of this is with privacy. Also, this is very new, and I guess this is very like we all of most of them actually we have to deal with like a case by case.
Yeah.
So I think this is actually another topic, maybe different topic, but we probably have to create some kind of resource, like accessible resource, so that the teachers, language teachers, can access to that to find out what kind of information, not just strategies, but maybe some kind of information based on a particular case. May help some teachers to.
But that's kind of the mandate of the ALL-SIG, right? Creating this network and resources. Yeah.
I think,
so I'm just. Sorry.
Just what your questions about the parameters first of all, and then what kinds of questions we can be asking to get more information under those kinds of, starting off with the big and putting it into some sort of categories is also very, very helpful.
Yes.
So I just wanted to point out that Melody Cook has published a book recently. She's posted a link and a discount code in the.
Wow.
But
I would really like a signed copy though.
Come over and I'll sign it.
I was supposed to come over.
Yeah.
Well, as soon as.
Specifically on children with differences. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's the book is intercultural families and schooling in Japan, but part 3 is what I've listed. And what was interesting was like the story about a woman raising a deaf child was the differences between how American schools handle deaf children and to get a cochlear implant. And in Japan, they're not for that, they're for lip reading. And then the mother also has to decide, is she going to teach the kid American or Japanese Sign Language? So it became a bilingualism kind of issue as well. And then the other one is Eugene Ryan writes about he tried 15 international schools to put in his autistic son, and 13 of them refused.
Wow.
And you'd say, I mean, you'd assume that an international school would not do that, but that was like really shocking to read about.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just felt like they.
Well, I'm surprised any school would do that.
Yeah.
Wow. There's a note from Jennifer. All of them refused her son as well. Wow. Mm.
So anything different, yeah. And then my chapter is about, well, it's kind of a one-stop shopping of different things about fostering and adoption, but just some stories like the teachers. The biggest thing I think, which was mentioned earlier on, is that teachers don't know. Teachers don't get enough teacher education. This was, some of you were in the same talk with me this morning. Davy Young's talk, and he was saying how, there's nothing in the teacher education, and we were accused of not loving our daughter enough, or not showing her enough love. The special education teachers, he said, "Aijo ga tarinai," and we were. It was in the first weeks that she'd moved in with us, and she was going through a testing phase, and she was very troubled. And this is a normal part of the process, but he didn't know it, and he just assumed it's our fault, like we're not doing something, and that was just, that was kind of shocking. Anyway, you can read about that and more. Sorry, pimping over.
No, thanks, Melody. So I don't know how much time we have left, but if anybody else from the audience wants to share a story or
we have another 15 minutes.
Okay.
But there's also no presentation after this, so we can go.
So we can go for like 3 more hours? Okay. There's a comment from Ayako.
Yeah, I had 2 of my students told me in the last 2 weeks that they are highly sensitive, and one acts all genki in school, and she has lots of friends, but she feels just exhausted every day for feeling all the emotions and just be sensitive and trying to be cooperative to teachers as well, not just her peers, but she wants to help out teachers. She wants to lead the discussions, and she just gets exhausted, and she's been in classes. And one told me yesterday that he's highly sensitive, and it's really difficult to control his emotions, and he's in teacher training program. So he was in denial that he should be a teacher because of his conditions. And I was wondering if any of you had any cases where highly sensitive students were given accommodation in your institutions.
Yeah.
Or any experience with highly sensitive students.
Jennifer has posted a link to the main HSP specialist's website. Jennifer, do you have a comment? You can unmute yourself.
Yeah, no, sorry. I came in late, so I didn't want to, be intrusive.
Thank you, Jennifer.
No.
Yeah. No, so I'm an HSP too, and I'm a teacher. I've been teaching for almost 30 years. There are certain things, for me, online teaching has been so much easier than face-to-face, because when I come home, I'm just exhausted.
Yes.
But I'm a very social person too. It just depends what the demands are. And I never got accommodations, of course, at school, but I try to accommodate some of the students that I think are probably HSP. So I try to pair them. Sorry?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did you ask for an example? Yeah. So, you can see students that are just, I would say just maybe too much social interaction is exhausting for them. And I think, if they're required to perform, they're very stressed out. So like presentations in front of a class would be a problem. So I try not to ask my students to present individually in front of the class, because it's just, having to stand up in front of people and perform is, for certain people, it's not a big deal, but for other people, it can be like the trauma of the semester.
Yes.
So, you know, I'm trying to be, as that kind of person myself and as the mother of an autistic kid, like that Melody knows all about, you have to adjust everything, or people just don't learn. They get too stressed over the ways that they have to perform in class that it becomes too much for them. They can't really shine. And I think you know, HSPs they have a lot of interesting ideas, I think, to share with the class. They see the world a little bit differently, kind of like people on the spectrum. And you have to kind of bring that out. And having an environment that's too competitive or too stressful is a problem, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Yeah.
If I could add something else that I was thinking about earlier too, about training. So I do most of my research work about, you know, students that are on the spectrum, but I've also started studying teachers, and I just finished a study about self-efficacy, teacher self-efficacy of working with special needs students. And I found it was uniformly very low. And I think part of that reason is exactly what you were talking about earlier, that we don't have, like, there's so much of a stigma around it, and we don't have access to specific diagnoses. But I also think, like, anybody that looks at my kid, even though he can speak, or, you know, he can pass for normal most of the time, I think if anybody spends more than a few hours with him in a classroom, they'd realize that something's different about him. And I think we're all here because we can open our eyes and look at the students in our classroom and see there's something there. We just don't know what it is because we're not trained to recognize that, and we're not trained to work with it. So it becomes like a situation where we don't really want to get involved because we don't know what the parameters are, how the students might react. And I think, you know, a lot of autistic advocacy people say that, you know, in the 1960s, it was the same for the LGBTQ community, where it was always a secret and it was a stigma. And they were actually also listed in DSM, right, the diagnostic manual. To be a homosexual was considered a mental disease. And a lot of autistic people say that they hope within 20 or 30 years, there won't be any stigma, and people will proudly say, and a lot of them do, they're proudly autistic or proudly neurodiverse, like with ADHD or dyslexia and so on, because they do have a lot of strengths. And they're just not recognized in the classroom. There's still this sort of stigma, to the point that, you know, there's legal issues and parents don't want to say. I get it as a parent to not want to say, because nobody really knows what autism is. And when you say that word, they literally hang up on you. When you try to get your child into a school, they literally hang up the phone.
Wow.
So you feel like you don't want to say it because you're blocked out, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do?
And that becomes a catch-22, because then you can also not get any help. Yeah, because a lot of people don't want to say anything, so it just kind of perpetuates it. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
But I think things are getting better.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. I think.
Well, you know, when we were all in elementary school, ADHD didn't even exist, right? It was like, you know, every kid just had an attitude problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hyper. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely progress is being made, but yeah, awareness and support. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer. That was really helpful.
Did you want to share some more of your slides, Andrew? That might jump us off into some more questions.
Okay. Well, yeah, as we're talking about sensitive students and other different issues with communicating and online, and, you know, being stressful. One of the things I've done is not force some students to use their cameras, for example, because some students have told me that if the camera is off, they feel that they can communicate and participate better. And I'm like, no, that's what we're here for. So I don't need to see your face if you can communicate and participate. So, and I've also, I get the students to do these simple, I'm sure all of us have some ideas and things that we do every class, but I get, for example, a seminar class, I get students to do short poster presentations or single slide presentations on the topic every class. And I can just show you some of these quickly. Just a second. And same as all of you, you know, this is my first experience teaching online, and it was a steep learning curve to try to do, you know, regular activities normally. So I'll just show you a few examples of things that my students have done. When we were talking about, you know, comparative culture and communication styles, and I asked them to share any stories they've had, I just made a simple template like this where the students can fill it in with their own ideas, and then it makes it easier for them to talk and participate and feel that they've accomplished something on something where they'd otherwise feel kind of reticent or hesitant to participate in. So yeah, these are all stories, and then we have some discussion based on these. And these can either be done in the whole class or in a breakout room. So these are 3 examples of real world communication style differences. And I'm happy to share these with anybody. Also looking at organizational cultures, you know, just comparing to organizations you're familiar with, and the students, you know, in this kind of way, the students feel really kind of comfortable to participate. Yeah. So there's a range of topics. Anyway, so I'd be, you know, these are just some things that I've done, but I'd be curious, you know, what anybody else has done to kind of get the students to open up and share. Okay. All right. Yeah, so those are my examples.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Feel free to unmute yourself and jump in.
So Ayako, I'm just wondering what context do you teach in?
Sorry, I teach at a university and mainly listening speaking classes. I also teach a program where I'm a teacher trainer for younger learners.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any techniques, materials, or strategies you use to get the students to communicate?
Online.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also it was my learning curve. It was first time, and I also struggle with the lower level students. The lowest level of communicative classes, they never turn on their camera, and oftentimes they have difficulty with the technology.
Yeah.
In the first place, and it was difficult. But the technique I used in the beginning of the semester was I have this like random selection app, and I collected adjectives from each class, and every class, because we were at home, every class I'll choose, or the app chooses one adjective, and they have to go and find something cool, or go find something shiny, or go find chemical or something like that. And I would break them in a breakout rooms and then talk about it and show something that they brought, and it was just a fun thing to do. But
show and tell.
Yeah,
I had students just randomly last Friday. Somebody commented about a stuffed animal in the background of somebody's screen, and then suddenly all the screens lit up, and every student was showing off their stuffed animal. Even the guys had some like cute, you know, little rabbit or something that they had in their room. So that was really kind of something spontaneous and interesting.
And it made them stand up and look for something in their house for 2 minutes. And that really helped. Like they needed to stretch, they need to run around. Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
one way to establish common ground. Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah. So maybe Michael, what kind of context are you teaching in? Do you want to unmute yourself and share anything if you like?
Well, until March of this year, I was teaching in the same university as Ayako.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we actually were colleagues. And now I moved to Tokyo, and I am teaching in integrated junior high school and high school, private school. And coming from the context where I was in, where Ayako and I and our other colleagues were immediately able to support students when we need to. It's a totally different environment here.
Yeah.
Can I just say that the school that Ayako and I guess Michael used to work at has a reputation of being a school where students who have different needs tend to go. And actually, my daughter is in the high school.
Oh,
affiliated
really? Okay.
high school. She's living in the boarding.
Dorm. Okay.
Yeah, she's living in the dorm, and
nice.
It was a good, really perfect fit for her.
Oh, nice.
She's very active in basketball there, and she's succeeding in her classes better than she did in junior high school. Yeah.
Good to know.
But I know your school kind of has a reputation of having that, like when Michael said, having that access, having the ability to support those students. I expect my daughter will go to your college too, probably. Yeah. But I'm glad that exists nearby. Sorry, just wanted to say that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
Thank you, Mel. Yeah, so going back to my context, it's good that I am privy to the situation of the students, but I think the difficulty is that even if the teachers are aware of their situation, they really don't know how to address the situation.
Yes. Yeah.
And I could only do so much because I only handle the English classes.
Right. Yeah.
And for junior high school and high school students, their lifeline is directly connected to their homeroom teachers. So there's an opportunity for study for that, and an opportunity to really go into in-depth how to bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's something Natsuki talked about too, right? The relationship with homeroom teachers and how that kind of transformed what you could do with the students. That would be some very useful and interesting research. Thank you, Michael.
No. Thank you for allowing me to share my experience here.
Yeah, no, that's what this is. It's a forum. So, and we all get better by sharing. So this is great. Yeah.
I think it's difficult as the new teacher at the school, but if you let other teachers know that you have that specialty, I bet you they would all leap at the opportunity to talk to you.
Yeah.
In the elementary schools I work at, there's like the one teacher that knows how to use a computer. They have to take care of all the problems. So gradually all the teachers are getting more comfortable, but it's so nice to have like somebody you can talk to privately.
That's true. That's true. But again, I'm treading on eggshells, in a certain way because I'm new to the school. So
yeah. I know it's difficult.
Yep.
Sometimes it's difficult, like, having a seminar or just having somebody has more knowledge than you that you could ask privately. There's strategies to use, right? But giving seminars on technology has been one thing that those teachers who know how to use it have had to do, right?
Right. I think for me the biggest obstacle would be because the school already has structure to support the students. They have a counselor's office, they have an in-house psychologist, but how I get into the loop, it's very difficult to get into the loop because of my limited Japanese ability. But if I am able to communicate fluently, probably it's easier for me to provide support as well.
Maybe during the teachers meeting, kind of a talk with the principal or the vice principal saying that you have this kind of training or an interest in this issue and you'd like to pursue it further. And usually there are committees, at least within the elementary school. Somebody's in charge of doing research on different issues, right?
Yeah, there are. I think the path for me right now is that they allowed me to provide remedial classes in English for struggling learners, and that is my path towards the assistance.
Excellent. Anyone else with a comment or anecdote or question?
Yeah, it's a long session. I really appreciate everybody staying so long. Yeah.
It's just good to be in the presence of like-minded people.
Yeah.
With this kind of interest, it's just very difficult to really connect with people with the same interest, and this is an issue that needs to be addressed.
Oh
as
yeah.
far as Joya.
I have to say, I think Japan is a little bit behind in addressing these issues. So if we have more experience, I think it's good that we do speak up.
Yeah. And really, creating a network and sharing of this is really essential. Yeah.
And while we have time, we just want to give a shout out to Jennifer, because when we met Jennifer in Shizuoka 2 years ago, she provided us with the pathway in order for Ayako and myself to do the research that we are presenting tomorrow.
Oh, wow. What time is your presentation tomorrow?
Well, the presentation is already on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I provided the link on the chat.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
we'll definitely watch it.
Ayako and I will do a Q&A tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
It would be great if everybody.
Hi everyone, I'm Ayako Oiwa.
Sorry. Oh, I got it. I see.
Okay. I don't know if anybody else wants to share anything, or
how much time do we have left?
The official end of the session is 2:55, so we've gone over.
Oh, we've gone over.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we could stop here. The room will be open until the plenary starts. So we have another 20 minutes. Shall we stop the recording here?
Yeah, we can stop the recording.
Okay, that might make it easy to bring up more difficult issues as well.
Yeah. Now that we're off the record,
so
let's talk about Melody's cat.
Can I just get everyone to unmute themselves again, and let's give a big round of applause for a very informative presentation and discussion from all the participants afterwards. I really appreciate it.
It says it's still recording. The recording is still going.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, you want the appreciation time. Right. I'm sorry.
And we needed to have a live video of your cat.
So thank you. And don't forget to check out the SIG rooms and the Hangout. And also, if you go to the top page for live events, you'll see that there's links to the sponsors as well. The publishers are
leaving me
materials to show. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, otsukare-sama deshita. Thank you, everyone, for joining and participating.
Thank you for